Well, welcome to the Nanaimo Yacht Charters. We're standing alongside Sommelier, our Catalina 30, and what we're going to do now is take a little bit of time to show you around and how things work on Sommelier. The first thing that we're going to do is discuss the shore power cable here. So this must be obviously disconnected. Before you even think of disconnecting it, go down below and on the AC panel switch off the power so that there's no current running or draining at the time you take it apart. And here we are. Just give this a slight twist in clockwise direction and the cable will disengage. On the boat is where it attaches. It's called a smart plug attachment. You don't just pull it out, you lift up the lid and you depress those paddles and you just give it a straight pull out and you'll see that they're straight terminals and they're not twisted like the dock side is. So to put it back, you just put that back and in and put this down. If it clicks like that, it's in place, it's locked firmly. So that's how you do it, and please remember to take it and undo it before you depart the dock, because leaving it plugged in is expensive. Through the engine start procedure. First of all, we'll look at this, the gear shift and throttle control. And in the 12 o'clock position like that, you should be able to push that button in just like that. And if you hold it in and push it forward, you're now engaging throttle only. Now watch what happens as I come back. That button pops out at 12 o'clock. And if I carried on and went forward, I would now be in gear and throttle. So just to have throttle only, bring it up to 12 o'clock. Make sure it's right in the middle of that loose spot. Depress the red button, and there you have throttle. Now over here, we've got our engine control panel. To start the engine, you want the power on, and the power is at the bottom here. And you press and hold that down. You'll see the lights come on, and that little jump means it's ready to start. So you go to the top here and hit that, and away you go. The very first thing we listen for is the healthy splash of water over the transom. We're going to go around there in a second and have a look at it. This is your fuel gauge. You switch it on and you can see there it is. This here is just a USB port for charging, maybe a laptop or a cell phone or something you might want to charge when you're up here in the cockpit. So there you have it. We never run this engine more than 2400 RPM, and ideally speaking, that's really its best cruising RPM. When you get to stop the engine, you never switch the power off. You always hit the stop button. But before you do that, you want to bring the throttle down to absolute idle. There you go. And that's idle speed. And you let it idle for a while, especially if you've been running the engine hard. You let it idle for a minute or two before shutting down. Now, we're going to show you what the exhaust should look like with water coming out of it. So we're going to step off the boat and just show you. Let's go through the engine start procedure. First of all, we'll look at this, the gear shift and throttle control. And in the 12 o'clock position like that, you should be able to push that button in just like that. And if you hold it in and push it forward, you're now engaging throttle only. Now watch what happens as I come back. That button pops out at 12 o'clock. And if I carried on and went forward, I would now be in gear and throttle. So just to have throttle only, bring it up to 12 o'clock. Make sure it's right in the middle of that loose spot. Depress the red button, and there you have throttle. Now over here, we've got our engine control panel. To start the engine, you want the power on, and the power is at the bottom here. And you press and hold that down. You'll see the lights come on, and that little jump means it's ready to start. So you go to the top here and hit that, and away you go. The very first thing we listen for is the healthy splash of water over the transom. We're going to go around there in a second and have a look at it. This is your fuel gauge. You switch it on and you can see there it is. This here is just a USB port for charging, maybe a laptop or a cell phone or something you might want to charge when you're up here in the cockpit. So there you have it. We never run this engine more than 2400 RPM, and ideally speaking, that's really its best cruising RPM. When you get to stop the engine, you never switch the power off. You always hit the stop button. But before you do that, you want to bring the throttle down to absolute idle. There you go. And that's idle speed. And you let it idle for a while, especially if you've been running the engine hard. You let it idle for a minute or two before shutting down. Now, we're going to show you what the exhaust should look like with water coming out of it. So we're going to step off the boat and just show you. There you have the water coming out of the exhaust and cooling the exhaust nicely. So that's most important, that you're getting a good flow of water. Right, we're going to just show you putting it in and out of gear. So you bring it back to 12, button pops out, and then you just slowly stroke it ahead, and we've engaged gear. And now you can see we're off. I'm going to bring it back to neutral. You always bring it back to neutral and pause for a second. When you go astern, you don't ever crash from the head to the stern. So that's important. Up here on the instrument panel, we've got the latest touchscreen Raymarine plotter. And we've got the wind instruments and depth here and speed. What we're going to do now, before showing you that, is go up and have a look at the windlass. This boat's just been fitted with a brand new windlass, so let's go and have a look. Right, here we are on the foredeck, and we're about to show you how to work this anchor windlass. It's very important that when you come to use the anchor windlass, which is usually first thing in the morning after spending a night in anchorage somewhere, you need to run the engine for a good 5 minutes at 1500 RPM. That puts some charge back into the batteries, so you're not going to hurt the windlass and you're not going to deplete the batteries. So it's good to have that. And whenever you work with the windlass, you should have the engine running at 1500 RPM. Let's have a look at what we've got here. So open that up. And you have a look down there, there's some new chain and an anchor and some road. Now you've got 3 times the length of the boat, so about 100 feet of 3-ply anchor road and about the same in chain. And you'll see the chain is marked in yellow every 30 feet. Every 10 meters it's marked in yellow. You have 2 buttons, that is an up button and a down button. So there you go. You just hit that button and she's ready to go. Bring it up, you just hit that and she's up. So that's all there is to it. It's dead simple, very efficient. But always remember when you finish, you just shut the covers. And that stops it inadvertently being off. Okay. Right, and if you have a look down here, there is a chain hook which we can use to snub on. So you can hook that into the chain and bring the line back and then tie it to a cleat and then release the chain. That means all the weight is off the chain and you won't have that noise up on deck. It'll be nice and quiet for you. So that's a useful thing to have. Right. One of the most important things is not to have the topping lift too loose. You can see it here. If it's too loose, it will drag on the top here, and in a rolling anchorage, just doing that all night will actually wear right through this rub strip on the top. So please make sure you can ease off the main sheet and hoist up on the top and lift it back, and that will give us the clearance that we need there. On this side, we've just got the waste pump out. That's if you want to pump the waste out. You can go pump it straight over the side, which we'll go through once we're down below. That's your diesel. And that's important that you don't mix those up. They're well marked. Starboard side forward, just forward of the mast, you can see there's 2 fillers for the water. So you just fill both of those up, and that takes care of your water for you. Now, to shut the engine down, you want to be at slow idle. Let it drop down at idle. And especially if you've been running it hard, is to keep it idling for a bit to let the engine cool down naturally. Now remember, you don't switch off the power, you hit the stop button, second from the top, and you hold that down for a second or 2, and then you go to the power. Now that one you hold down until it switches off, like that. and the LCD display must go off just as it has done. You want to switch the fuel gauge off. That's it, just a toggle switch. So that's all you need to know about that. Remember, run at 2400 RPM. Let's have a look in the lockers while we're up here. This one here is where the propane is stowed. So we'll open that, and it's in a nice sealed box, so it's totally safe. And there it is. This one here is for your propane, and it has its own pipe which connects to that, and then can go up onto the barbecue, which is usually mounted up there. So you've got a nice long bit of hose to keep the food. There it is. Okay, so that goes into there, comes out of here, and you'll find it's long enough to come up and go up to your propane bottle. And that saves you having to continue to worry about buying these little chaps, which have now become enormously expensive. So it's better to just use your spare bottle and use that hose. So that's it. And remember always to dog that down, because then it will bite on the seal, and that seal will keep it absolutely, completely and utterly safe from escaping into the rest of the boat. The drain is at the lowest point of this box, and it goes out over the side, and the box is nice and sealed then. Right, we're going to have a look underneath this chap here. Over here we've got a heaving line, which will be tied up on the lifeline with this. You've got some Geno sheets which will go back when the sail goes back, and this here is an important little chap. This is your emergency steering, which just drops straight into there. Okay, and now you can start steering. That wheel, if something breaks in here, you've now got complete control with your rudder. So we'll keep that safely here. You've got a hose, you've got another bunch of line, and a spare bilge pump handle. And if you notice here, we've also got a cable to lock the dinghy up with. If you go ashore and you're worried about the dinghy being stolen, you do have a lock and a key for it right there. Okay, right, let's have a look at the other side. The coolant is outside in the cockpit on the port side cockpit locker, and there you can see quite clearly the level of coolant between the high and the low, and that's exactly where it needs to be the whole time, just in between the high and the low. This little box has got top-up oil, and this white bin here is for coolant. You shouldn't really need any, but if you do, you just undo the top here and pour a little bit in. That's your fuel for your dinghy. This is the water heater, and of course that life ring will be deployed on a rack on the life rings. And over here is your floating line, and you have a dinghy pump and a baler, a bilge pump, little mobile bilge pump. Okay, so that's the end of the interest in that locker. You go down below and you switch on electronics, it'll bring up the instruments, the nice new hybrid touch Raymarine, which is the latest state-of-the-art finger controlled. And here we have our true wind speed and actual wind speed, and there's your depth sounder. This is your log giving us speed, and remember that all switches on with. Well, here I am at the chart table, and just above the chart table you have the panel that controls the shore power. Okay, so remember, when disconnecting the shore power cable, flick that off, that light will go off. That's your AC main 30 amp breaker, and that will cut off any power coming into the boat. And vice versa, when you want to plug in, you'll certainly want the battery charge on. You'll notice the battery charger is on. If you want the water heater, you can stick that on as well. And when they refer to outlets, they're talking about the plug points on the boat. So this is all your 110 voltage, and from here this is your 12 volt, and that's all very self-explanatory, with main cabin lights, running lights, steaming lights. So all the lights. This is your macerator pump, you can hear me, and that just switches on and runs right there. This is your refrigerator. Whenever I'm plugged into shore power is on, I leave that on, and essentially what's happening here is the battery charge is putting power back into the batteries, and we're taking it out with the refrigerator, so we shouldn't deplete the batteries. This is your propane control. You need switch that on, and that opens up the solenoid inside that locker where the propane is. Remember, you have to open those bottles whenever you want to cook. So you'll open it and then come along and hit the propane control, and then the propane will be ready to flow. Electronics, that switches on all the instruments up there. So this is your electronic switch. VHF, which we'll go through in a second, and the rest stereo outlets. We're talking about the 12 volt outlets that are in the boat, like the one, for argument's sake, right next to the start panel. There is a couple of USB ports to charge up batteries and things. And you have a spare. This is your shower pump. With that on, there's a button in the shower, and you can press that and that will pump the water out. And here, this is just panel lights. Let's have a look at the Vhf radio. So we switch on VHF, and we come on up here, and you can see that's it, it's on. Now to get to the WX here, we'll just press that, and you can see WX come up, and then you hit that and turn up the volume. Sorry, hit it again. There we are. So you have to hit it twice, and now you've got 10 weather channels. And you've got, as I said, 10 weather channels, and you choose the clearest one. And of course, being Canada, we have them in French as well. And then to switch off, you can see there's your power button. You just press and hold that down for 3 seconds, and off it goes. So quite straightforward, but you must have that on first. Little gauges that continually monitor the voltage in each bank. So this is your house voltage at 13.46, and this is your starter at 13.4. So those are useful little indicators. The actual switches are over here. So this would switch off all the DC. If I switch this off, you can see that goes off. And when I switch this on, that's your starter battery off. And that's on. And if you wanted to join both batteries together, you'd put it all the way over to your parallel position. So it's not a good idea to leave it there, but it's great for starting. And once you've started, I would just put it back to that position there, and it doesn't then join. Inside the chart table itself, we've got an array of stuff. That there is for the shelf overhead with the wine glasses, because this is the wine boat, the Sommelier's boat, so he has pegs for his wine rack. Some safety items, some horns, flashlights, and of course a flare gun. And yeah, we've even got a spare impeller should we lose that, right there. And of course you've got the key to open up all the deck fills, and that lives in here as well. So, and you've got a pretty comprehensive manual. Okay, so you can have a look through that. Plus we have our own manual, which will be there, and of course the recorded version. The position of your batteries, these are your house batteries here. Okay, and you've got two 110 amp batteries right here, and then underneath here you've got the engine start battery. And as I said, the voltages are displayed right there. So you don't really have any need for going in there. Okay, so to do the engine checks, you just take these cushions out the way, and you've got pretty good access because this panel lifts right out. See, that gives you lots of good checking ability, and straight away we can point out where the dipstick is. So you can see both of these panels come off, giving you excellent access to the engine. That there is a difficult spot for the dipstick, and I'm going to get down there and show you. It's nestled up here in the corner, and I'm shining on it now. So to get it out, you have to lift it with your finger like that, and you can see where it goes in. And I'm now slowly taking it out, and you can see there's the oil, extremely clean, just short of the mark. I'm going to put it back. Be careful to get it in the hole, and down it goes. And it really is just a little bit of a fiddle, but the engine is brand new, so it won't use any oil or leak any, I hope. So we're just going to push that down thoroughly, all the way down, and then there's no ways that that's going to come out. So that's important to check daily. over here, you've got your water strainer over there, and you can look straight into the top and see it's nice and clean. If it needs cleaning, you just unscrew the top, but before you do that, you shut off the water supply. You can see it's a dark hose, so it's this one here. Okay, and then you can see the valve, it is open. Right, so that's it. You just check the raw water, and if you need to clean, you shut that valve. You can check the oil level. There's the dipstick down there. And then back here will be the water canister for the coolant. Just have to find that. Standard Japsco pump toilet, and this little black lever is in the correct position. If you look over the top here, you've got two bowls. One is filled with water on the left, and the empty, no water, is on the right, and that's where that lever should be left all the time. Now you want to use the toilet, flick that across to the other side, twist it to unlock the handle, and then start pumping with it in the wet bowl position. And if I open that, you'll see water coming in and being pumped out at the same time. Okay, now if you want to finish off, remember, the more times you pump, the cleaner the toilet. Okay, we're getting a bit of debris coming in from the harbour here, which is to be expected, but we'll pump away. And then you flick this onto the dry bowl all the way across, and it will empty. No further water will come in. You see she's emptying now, and then I'll twist this and lock it like that. Now it's locked, and that's in the dry bowl. The shower drain pump, remember the panel on the instrument panel, or the switch panel, the shower pump should be on, and that is your pump. Okay, right, this is access to the bilge. You'll always get a little bit of water in there, which comes from the stuffing box. It has a float switch, and when that gets to that level, it automatically starts pumping the water out. And you can hear it sucking air now, so it won't pump out all of that water. If it gets too full, or maybe the float switch stops working, this will rise up to about that level, just below the floorboards, and it will sound an alarm, which means you should come back here and see why the bilge pump hasn't pumped out all the water. It may be that this float's got stuck, or that the bilge pump itself has stopped working. Okay, so that's all you need to know about that, but it is an important detail. I'm going to show you where you can check the stone gland to make sure it's not leaking too much. Over here you can see and there we have the dripless seal. Now those generally don't leak very much, so if you look in there and there's no sign of water, then you're in pretty good shape. You can check this further by opening this one and have a look at the seal itself. There we are. If I can shine down there, you can see the flange and the seal, and you just have to put your hand underneath that to see that it's not wet and it's nice and dry. So all is well there. Now the refrigerator switches on the 12-volt switch panel, clearly marked refrigerator, and this is your fridge. You just take these out, and you've got two fairly generous holding plates here. The thermostat for that is over the corner and down here, and that's where you can set the temperature. Okay, and you don't want to set it up too high because it can be kind of hard on the batteries. You just drop those into place. Right, now the stove, you have to switch on the propane control, make sure the bottle is open, and why don't we go through that process. Right, remember you start off at the box at the back, that's where the propane tanks are. Open that up and open open the bottle that's connected. And come over here and switch on that propane control. And what they refer to with the propane control is this little grey trident box there. So you can lean down here and hit on, and if everything's static and it is on, then you'll be able to light the stove. And here we go. You just press, twist and hold, and you have to get one of these to work, and that's it. Now I'm holding it down in the twisted position for about 5 seconds, then I can let it go. If you let it go too soon, it'll go out, meaning that the thermocouple is not fully engaged yet. Switch off, you just rotate it, and it goes to the 12 o'clock position, and nobody can bump it. And you do check the other one, and that's it too, same thing. And you can let go, and there we are. This is your stove control, and you can just open the stove, you have to engage the button like that, and now you can open it and drop that down. I like to open it with this out of the way so I can see what's going on. There you go. So we'll move that out of the way, and the lighter is there. Right. Now to put the same thing, you just twist it and hold it over, and then you just come along and light. You see that? There we are. We're in business now. Okay. And we've got the oven working. If you want to do the other side, that's the broiler, and that's up there. And that's all you do is just flash it, same thing, leave it for 5 seconds, and that's working perfectly. Switch off, there. Let's just drop this back, and then we can lock it up. That's great. And lift that, push it in, pull it up, and lock it, and then there you are. Down here is a gimbal lock, right there. See that? So you can just push that to one side and let it slide, and it'll gimbal fully. There we are. That's it. Right. You'll notice in the galley there is a microwave. Now you've got to be plugged into shore power and have the microwave plugged in before you can use it. It will not run off battery power. Okay, so remember that's a shore power only. And to the right of the microwave is the switch control for the heater. And all you have to do is rotate that dial, or switch it on, and you can hear the heater fire up. But please be warned with the exhaust, which emits on the port quarter, that your dinghy painter and any other lines, dock lines, are not in the way, because it'll burn through them very quickly. So to run the heater, you just switch it on to full, and you'll hear it fire up. Looking at now is the heater control box. That round dial, you turn that all the way on in a clockwise direction, and you switch on the little toggle switch to the left, and you'll hear the diesel-fired heater fire up, and it will take about 20 minutes to get up to temperature and settle and start giving you good warm air down below. And when you switch off, you just rotate that switch back again until the off position, and then switch off the toggle on the left. And it's a very easy system, but please be cautioned about tying up on the port quarter, because that's where the exhaust is, and it'll burn through your dinghy painter, and it'll burn through any lines that are left, dock lines that are in that vicinity. Thank you so much for watching our short video presentation. I do hope that this helps you on your trip. We sincerely hope that you have a great trip. If there are any questions that you have pertaining to the operation, you've also got the manual that you can refer to, and you can call me, 1-250-729-5592. Have a great holiday, and thank you for sailing with the Nanaimo Yacht Charter.